No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. In light of the passage, which one of the following interpretations of this sentence is the most accurate? Option 1 states, no analyses exist of Michelangelo's or Leonardo's social accounts. Calm down. This is not talking about their social networking accounts, hashtag Facebook. Not that. The reference to this is here in the third paragraph. We can see the line mentioned at the end. So it is stated here, but study of the critical, artistic, and popular reception of works by such artists as Michelangelo and Leonardo can shed important light on the meaning of these artists and their work for many different people. And the history of meaning making has a great deal to do with how scholars as well as lay audiences today understand these artists and their achievements. We can see the reference directly here. No amount of social analysis can account fully for the existence of Michelangelo or Leonardo. The key to answering this question is in this statement, just preceding the reference. If scholars engaged in this enterprise inquire what makes an image beautiful, or why this image or that constitutes a masterpiece or a work of genius. Notice the phrase masterpiece and work of genius. They should do so with the purpose of investigating an artist's or a work's contribution to the experience of beauty, taste, value, or genius. Yet again, we see the word genius repeated. Why is an image a masterpiece or a work of genius? What contributes to its beauty, taste, or value or genius? This is the reference. We can see that one does not connect with this. So as we just now noticed, it is not about their social network accounts, no, rather their social description. But Michelangelo and Leonardo's social description, what has that got to do with images? The primary aspect here is images, imagery. So this we find is irrelevant to the premise of the question. We can eliminate option 1. Option 2 states social analytical accounts of people like Michelangelo or Leonardo cannot explain their genius. This is perfect. What this statement, the one where we found the key, says is that it is important for scholars to inquire what makes an image beautiful, why this image or that constitutes a masterpiece or a work of genius, what contributes to an artist's or a work's experience of beauty, taste, value, or genius. Then we have the reference and the line that we had highlighted before. The study of the critical, artistic, and popular reception of works by such artists as Michelangelo and Leonardo can shed important light on the meaning of these artists and their works for many different people, which means that this is almost correct. Some analytical accounts, social analytical accounts of people like Michelangelo or Leonardo cannot explain their genius. It can only help people understand their work to some extent. It is mandatory that their work be analyzed according to this particular aspect. What constitutes the image, the visual practice of the image itself. So we find that 2 connects, although inferentially, but it does. So 2 is a valid answer. You can qualify 2. Option 3 states Michelangelo or Leonardo cannot be subjected to social analysis because of their genius. But this is taking it a little too far. This is an exaggeration. They cannot be subjected to social analysis because of their genius. We can't say that. There is genius. In order to understand that genius, we have to basically analyze their work. We have to analyze the visual practice of the images that they have produced. These accounts, they don't exist. They cannot explain their genius, but we can at least analyze them to learn their process. So we find that 3 is comparatively weaker. 3 can be eliminated. Option 4 states socially existing beings cannot be analyzed, unlike the art of Michelangelo or Leonardo, which can. Again, something which is completely outside the premise, socially existing beings, and then the assumption cannot be analyzed. How do we say that? Where is the reference to that? We don't have anything such to qualify this option. 4 can be eliminated. Thus, our answer is option 2. Agreed, this is quite inferential. It does not uh, directly boil down from the passage, or it cannot be directly found, even inferred from the passage. But we can see that this, to an extent, functions along with the passage, while the other options, they can be eliminated. They don't fit with the passage, or they don't connect to anything in the passage. So we find that not the perfect answer, but the most appropriate answer here, the only one possible, is option 2. So that is our final answer. All of the following statements may be considered valid inferences from the passage, except option 1 states artifacts are meaningful precisely because they help to construct the meanings of the world for us. This we can infer from the fourth paragraph. The reference to artifacts is here in the second line. The first line gives us the explanation for this. Scholars studying visual culture might properly focus their interpretative work on life worlds by examining images, practices, visual technologies, taste, and artistic style as constitutive of social relations. The task is to understand how artifacts contribute to the construction of a world. Now, it is these, the images, practices, visual technologies, taste, artistic style, which are called artifacts. And the requirement is why this is significant, because these contribute to the construction of a world, or they help to construct the meaning of the world. So this is true according to the passage. We can infer this from the passage. So one can be eliminated. Option 2 states visual culture is not just about how we see, but also about how our visual practices can impact and change the world. This we can find from the third paragraph. The study of visual culture must scrutinize visual practice as much as images themselves, asking what images do when they are put to use. So basically, we find that visual practices, their impact is emphasized in this paragraph. So this reference is also something which is true according to the passage, can be inferred. So 2 can be eliminated. Option 3 states studying visual culture requires institutional structures without which the structures of perception cannot be analyzed. Now, perception or structures of perception is something which we find in the fifth paragraph. We can see it here. That is, the structures of perception as a physiological process, as well as the epistemological frameworks informing a system of visual representation. Scholars may learn a great deal when they scrutinize the constituents of vision. So, vision and structures of perception. So, we come across two problems with this particular option. First, visual culture is something that we find in the third paragraph. It is not directly connected. We see it here in the fourth paragraph as well, but we don't see reference to that here in the fifth paragraph. So, one, this is not exactly connected, not directly connected, at least. Second, we have institutional structures that is not present in any of these paragraphs. In fact, that is a reference which is outside the premise. So, we don't need institutional structures, at least not according to the passage. So, this is something which is not inferable, not a valid inference from the passage. So, we can qualify 3 as a valid answer. Option 4 states understanding the structures of perception is an important part of understanding how visual cultures work. Again, structures of perception, we can mention, we've seen it here, a physiological process as well as the epistemological frameworks informing a system of visual representation. So basically, understanding the structures of perception, which is a part of or constituent of vision, is an important part of understanding how visual culture works. So, all right, we have our previous doubt addressed. Visual culture is connected with structures of perception and constituents of vision. All right, but doesn't make a difference. We still have institutional structures in 3, which is outside the premise. So we find that 4 also is true according to the passage. We can eliminate option 4, and hence our answer is option 3. Which set of keywords below most closely captures the argument of the passage? In a question like this, it is always a good idea to match the keywords with the passage and find out the frequency of their occurrence. We can check from option 1, visual culture, aesthetic value, lay audience, visual experience. We don't need to check the entire option. We can check with lay audience. Lay audiences are mentioned here. And we find from this statement that lay audiences is a very minor aspect of this passage. So while visual culture, let's say, it makes an appearance in at least 3 to 4 paragraphs, lay audiences doesn't. Lay audience is extremely limited. So this option seems to be extremely limited. We can eliminate option 1. Option 2 states scholars, social analysis, Michelangelo and Leonardo, interpretive devices. Now, again, we don't have to check the entire option. We can check Michelangelo and Leonardo. Michelangelo and Leonardo make exactly 2 appearances in the passage. This is in the 3rd paragraph here. The first one is here. The second one is here. And then again, we realize as we read this paragraph that Michelangelo and Leonardo, they are used as an example. Their genius is mentioned in order to emphasize the value of scrutinizing visual practice. The key aspect is visual practice, visual culture, not Michelangelo and Leonardo. So again, this is a little too limited, focuses on minor details, so 2 can be eliminated. Option 3 states imagery, visual practices, life worlds, structures of perception. This sounds good. So here we check against all the given phrases. Imagery is supremely important. Not only do we see images mentioned in the first paragraph, we see imagery directly mentioned in the second paragraph, and then we see while the rest of the passage talks about images, imagery, which basically gives a system of analyzing images or portraying images, that is the central idea of the entire passage. So this is very important. Visual practices makes an appearance in 2 paragraphs. We see visual construction of reality, side mentioned here. We have visual practice here. And then we can see there are other references to visual practice again. So visual practice is also an important aspect. Then we have life worlds. Life worlds is one aspect, a representative aspect of the examination of images, as mentioned here, with the emphasis or with the task of studying visual culture, focusing on interpretative work. So we see that this is an important aspect. Life worlds is an important aspect from this, the 4th paragraph. We have structures of perception, which is mentioned here and connects with constituents of vision. So again, these are all key aspects. We see that all the 4 aspects here are quite important. There's references all across the passage. And unlike the previous 2 options, none of these are minor aspects or minor issues. They come in at the beginning of a paragraph. Let's say we are talking about life worlds. Life worlds is mentioned here, where the paragraph is trying to establish its key subject. Similarly, structures of perception here. This, in fact, connects with constituents of vision, perception, and vision, you see. And so this basically is the major argument of this, the fifth paragraph. So this is a very good option. This covers the entire passage and its major aspects. And this is better than at least one and two comparatively. So you can qualify three as a valid answer. Let's see if we can find something better in four. Four states: visual construction of reality, work of genius, ethnography, and epiphenomena. Now, in the last two options, we again see it reverting back to something which is minor. First off, we have ethnography here. Ethnography and reception studies become productive forms of gathering information. We realize not only is this one aspect of two which are given in a certain context, second, it is these are forms of gathering information. They don't directly relate with images or imagery. So again, in ethnography, we have a um, limited aspect which connects to a minor factor, a minor issue in the passage. And then in epiphenomena, we have something which is again a very passing reference. We see here that the importance is of evidence, not epiphenomena. The last paragraph states the scholar of visual culture seeks to regard images as evidence for explanation, not as epiphenomena. So, how can epiphenomena represent the a major argument of the passage? It is something which is directly obviated, which is negated. This is not that. So, how can that be the key aspect here? Doesn't work. We still have three comparatively the best option. You see, this kind of question will always have a comparative answer. Nothing can be perfect. You add one more word to an otherwise perfect answer option, and you'll get an even better answer option. So the best option here is three. Four compared to three is inferior. We saw why. We can eliminate four. Thus, we get the answer as option three. Which one of the following best describes the word epiphenomena in the last sentence of the passage? Now, this is a rather dramatic question, albeit not a very difficult one. So it can actually quite easily be analyzed. We see the last paragraph, the sixth one, is a one sentence paragraph. It says here, finally, the scholar of visual culture seeks to regard images as evidence for explanation, not as epiphenomena. While the meaning of epiphenomena is not directly given, we can see that a scholar of visual culture seeks to regard images as this and not that, which means epiphenomena is opposed to evidence for explanation. So whatever epiphenomena is, it is something which has an antonymous meaning or essence or sense as compared to evidence for explanation. Let's see which option gives us such a reference. Option A states phenomena amenable to analysis. No reference to analysis, no reference to phenomena. Epiphenomena relates to phenomena. That's quite a silly thing to do. So one cannot be justified. We can eliminate this option. Option 2 states overarching collection of images. We see seeks to regard images as, so images are mentioned, but overarching collection, no reference here again. A little too strong, an exaggeration. So 2 can also be eliminated. Option 3 states phenomena supplemental to the evidence. This is perfect. This is exactly what we were looking for. So evidence for explanation, that was what what we analyzed to be opposed to epiphenomena. So what is epiphenomena? Phenomena supplemental to, additional to the evidence. Forget the word phenomena, not required. Supplemental to the evidence, which means something which is additional to the evidence. And evidence is something which is opposed to epiphenomena. So, what can be the potential meaning? This, even if we don't know the word, it's highly probable that we don't know the word. This still gives us a close enough reference. We can say that this is a valid enough answer. Now, we're still shooting in the dark. We've hit something. We don't know if it's our target. So let's check with 4 and only then let's come back to 3. 4 says visual phenomena of epic proportions. Again, so we have come to phenomena. Visual phenomena also we can understand because we can infer because we are talking about visual culture here. But epic proportions, where do we see anything of epic proportions? Epic proportions, large, huge, grand scale, no such reference. So again, we don't have any logic to qualify option 4. 4 can most certainly be eliminated. So what must be the answer? There has to be an answer. The only possible answer is option 3. And thus, we can eliminate the rest of the answers. Our answer is option 3. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. In light of the passage, which one of the following statements best conveys the meaning of the sentence? The sentence is here at the end of the 5th paragraph. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants with images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. A part of this can be understood from this sentence itself. Another part of it can be understood from the statements preceding it. Scholars may learn a great deal when they scrutinize the constituents of vision, that is, the structures of perception as a physiological process, as well as the epistemological, meaning related or origin related, framework informing a system of visual representation. Vision is a socially and biologically constructed operation, depending on the design of the human body and how it engages the interpretive devices developed by a culture in order to see intelligibly. Seeing operates on the foundation of covenants, agreements with images. So seeing operations on the foundation with agreement with images or sort of a kind of a tie-up, if that can be called, between the faculty of vision and images that establish the conditions for meaningful visual experience. So there is a connection between seeing and images, uh, and that is what helps us in drawing meaningful visual experiences. So let's check with the options. Option 1 states sight as the meaningful visual experience is possible when there is a foundational condition established in images of covenants. This is extremely difficult language. The paragraph, the passage itself as such is quite complex. The options even more so. We don't need to analyze the entire thing. Focus on a small part established in images of covenants. Wrong. There is an agreement between seeing, vision, and images, but that doesn't mean we have images of agreements. Completely incorrect. So we can definitely eliminate option 1. Option 1 is out. Option 2 states sight becomes a meaningful visual experience because of covenants of meaningfulness that we establish with the images we see. This makes sense, so we can analyze it a little slower. Sight becomes a meaningful visual experience. Yes, sight, foundation of establish the condition for meaningful visual experience because of covenants of meaningfulness, because of covenants, agreements that we establish with images we see. So agreements with images makes complete sense. This is just a restatement, a rephrasing of, in essence, what is given in this given reference. So 2 seems like a valid answer. Let's check with the rest. 3 states the way we experience sight is through images operated on by meaningful covenants. This also is a distortion. Again, we can analyze a little slowly because what we could do in one doesn't necessarily work here. So, the way we experience sight is through images operated on by meaningful covenants. The last part is completely incorrect. We don't experience sight through images. We experience or we have visual experiences through a covenant between sight and images. So the first part is definitely a distortion. Second, operated on by meaningful covenants. Again, this takes covenant outside of the equation, makes it a third party. So when covenants from the outside come and operate on vision, on images, we begin to have sight. Completely wrong. There is a covenant between vision and image, and that is why we have visual experience. So this does not make any sense at all. 3 can be eliminated. Option 4 states images are meaningful visual experiences when they have a foundation of covenants seeing them. Again, a distortion. By this point, we have started to understand the logic. Images are meaningful visual experiences. Maybe this is also a distortion. We had said that meaningful visual experiences happen because of covenants between seeing and images. Then it says images are meaningful visual experiences. All right, probably. When they have a foundation of covenant seeing them, no. When we are seeing them and when there is a covenant, an agreement between image and seeing, then we have meaningful visual experiences. So even if we were to be very generous and allow the first part of this option, the second part of this option cannot be justified at all. So we can eliminate option 4. Thus, our answer is option 2.